Which, by the way, how annoying is The View getting? God, they're insufferable that long, aren't they? It's just a side effect. But she told Joy Behar that she's scared as heck, and it's this permanently offended, snowflakey, cancel culture mob who descend like a pack of hornets on anything they can get themselves into, trying to suppress everyone's right.
Welcome back to All-Star Buzz. Thanks for joining us. Let's jump right in. Piers Morgan has just launched a fierce attack on The View. This wasn't just a minor jab, it was an all-out assault. So, what set off his strong reaction? According to Morgan, it's the same old issue, the so-called cancel culture and the overly sensitive crowd, who swarm in, trying to silence anyone with a differing opinion. And if there's one thing Morgan can't stand, it's cancel culture. He's been a fierce critic of it for years, calling it absurd, a threat to free speech, and even comparing it to contemporary fascism. He's given countless rants about how cancel culture is turning people into fearful cowards, too scared to speak their minds. Sounds pretty intense, right? But here's where it gets interesting. The same person who's made it his mission to fight cancel culture is now calling for ABC to cancel The View. In his New York Post column, he didn't hold back, describing the show as pointless, irrelevant, and a Trump-hating farce. Harsh? Definitely. But is there any truth to it? Morgan argues that The View has turned into a non-stop Trump-bashing session, with the hosts no longer even pretending to be impartial.
And progressive voices at The View reacted to her appointment like this.
I think she's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that.
He argues that the show exists solely to mock him, attacking him relentlessly every single day. And it's no longer just about his politics. It's turned personal. Then, Morgan took it even further, saying, "In my worst nightmares, I imagine being stranded on a desert island with The View hosts." He described these nightmares as long, agonizing, and mentally draining, always unfolding in the same way. Without holding back, Morgan went straight for the jugular, starting with Joy Behar. He didn't spare any punches, launching his critique at Behar first. He called out Joy Behar over the Halloween costume controversy, where she allegedly wore blackface, only to later act as if it never occurred. Then, he turned his attention to Alyssa Farah Griffin. Morgan boldly accused her of being a political opportunist, pointing out how she once worked for Trump, called him a brilliant president, and now, suddenly, he's the worst leader in history. He quickly labeled her a flip-flopper. And honestly, is he wrong? How do you go from praising someone to suddenly treating them like the villain in a bad film? So, what was it? A true change of heart, or just a strategic career move? Because at this point, The View feels less like a talk show and more like a political reality series, with the script changing depending on who's in the spotlight. But wait, Sunny Hostin wasn't about to let that slide. According to her, the real flip-flopper wasn't anyone on The View. Morgan wasn't having any of it though. He fired back, accusing Hostin of unfairly attacking Nikki Haley, claiming she faked her emotions about her husband's military deployment. Then, he slammed her with a dose of her own hypocrisy, calling out Hostin for criticizing Nikki Haley for not using her real first name, while she doesn't use hers either. And, of course, no proper Morgan takedown is complete without taking a shot at Whoopi Goldberg. He reminded everyone of her past controversies, like when she was suspended from The View after making contentious remarks about the Holocaust, which sparked massive backlash. And that's just scratching the surface. Whoopi's been tangled up in numerous other scandals. Remember when she defended Roman Polanski years ago? That stirred up a storm too. At this point, Morgan's rant wasn't just an opinion. It had turned into a full-scale roast. It's no surprise that The View provokes such strong opinions. Morgan later claimed that the show isn't about real debate anymore. Instead, it's turned into an echo chamber, where the only thing that counts is how extreme you can go. And you know what? A lot of people agree with him. Even those who aren't fans of Trump are saying Morgan has a valid point. It's obvious that The View shows a strong bias. So, if the goal was to encourage diverse viewpoints, well, that's definitely not happening. But hold on, could Morgan be doing the same thing? Some critics are challenging him, questioning whether The View truly needs cancellation, or if it simply needs to stop being an endless left-wing echo chamber. Wouldn't it be more engaging if they hosted genuine debates instead of attacking Republicans daily? Or is this the new standard for modern talk shows? Debates are rare now. They just choose a side and go at it. And honestly, Morgan isn't entirely off base. The show leans so far left, it's practically bending over backwards. Whenever a conservative guest steps onto the set, they barely have time to speak before, bam, they're thrown into a verbal WWE match they never agreed to. It's not a debate. It's more like an intellectual roasting, where one side controls the conversation and the other is just counting down to the commercial break. You've seen it. Someone tries to make a point, and it quickly turns into a chaotic group chat-style argument. Meanwhile, viewers at home are left completely shocked. Some are even joking that The View isn't really a talk show anymore. It's turned into a roast session that people tune into for the entertainment. At this point, having a calm, genuine debate on The View would be the biggest plot twist of the year. Forget surprise guests. Just let someone finish a sentence without being interrupted and side-eyed into oblivion. Now, that would be revolutionary. So, what's the verdict? While you mull it over, let's move on to the next bit of drama. Because Piers Morgan and his team totally roasted The View when Kamala Harris made an appearance. And, let's just say, it wasn't pretty. Did you catch that major dig at the show? Calling it insufferable. Let's be real. He's not the only one who feels that way. But to say it so publicly, that was a pretty bold move. Then again, The View has definitely earned its reputation. Half the time, the hosts are shouting over each other, and the other half, nodding like they've just cracked the Da Vinci Code. But Morgan's jab wasn't just about the chaos. It was a direct shot at how The View has essentially turned into a political comfort zone for Democrats. To drive his point home, he played a clip of Kamala Harris and Joy Behar, where Joy asked Harris a loaded question about Trump possibly winning again, then casually referred to his supporters as crazies. Now, here's the catch. No matter how Harris responded, she was walking a political tightrope. If she agreed too much, she'd risk alienating moderate voters who don't see all Trump supporters as crazy. But if she challenged Joy's choice of words, she risked upsetting the audience, who expected her to bash Trump. So, what did she do? She played it safe, nodded along, kept her answer vague, and focused on one thing: ensuring the fear stayed front and center. Because Joy Behar knew exactly what she was doing, this wasn't a tough probing question about real policy failures or challenges. No, it was a setup. A soft question, carefully crafted to keep Harris in her comfort zone. And Morgan's frustration, clear for all to see. He no longer considers The View a legitimate talk show. It's just a one-sided political pep rally, with a studio audience clapping on cue every time a Republican gets roasted. But here's the twist. Morgan and his panel weren't buying any of it. Harris didn't even flinch when Joy casually dropped the word crazies to describe Trump supporters. No correction, not even a raised eyebrow. That instantly reminded people of Hillary Clinton's infamous basket of deplorables comment, which, let's be honest, didn't sit well in 2016. However, some on the panel argued that, at least, Clinton took ownership of her words. Clinton made a bold, purposeful statement. Harris? Her response came across as a nervous, disjointed mess. Then, the panel went for the jugular. They mocked the idea that the Vice President of the United States, one of the most powerful people on the planet, was somehow intimidated by a 77-year-old man with a comb-over. One commentator even threw in a bit of sarcasm, pointing out that Harris has the backing of one of the most powerful military forces in history. Yet, she's behaving as though Trump is some unstoppable horror movie villain. Instead of focusing on real policies, they argued, she's playing the fear card, constantly repeating, "I'm afraid. as if that's a winning tactic. But then the debate took a turn. Some panelists actually pushed back. They argued that Harris did an okay job handling herself, not because she was particularly inspiring, but because she managed to avoid major pitfalls. She stayed clear of saying anything too controversial. Even when the topic of race in America came up, she didn't outright label the US as a racist country, but she didn't deny it either. It was a delicate balancing act, perhaps too cautious, but certainly strategic. One person even remarked that, at this stage, her main goal isn't to stand out. It's simply to avoid making a mistake. And then there's the strategy behind it all. One moment, panelists are trying to sound profound, as if they're the philosophers of the talk show world. The next, it's like they're reading from a fortune cookie, offering advice so questionable, you'd swear it was scribbled in a rush during lunch break. Take Kamala Harris, for example. She might not be the most charismatic speaker. At times, it feels like she's buffering mid-sentence, as if her words are getting lost in translation. But maybe that's exactly the idea, right? Perhaps her purpose on the show is simply to appear, speak a few lines, pause dramatically as if she's about to share something revolutionary, and then nothing. Just some hollow statements and plenty of fluff. Meanwhile, Piers Morgan is treating The View as if it's the joke of daytime television. Honestly, many people are supporting him for calling out the show, and some are even advocating for its cancellation. What's wild about all this? They don't even realize it. Right now, The View is less of a talk show and more of a tool, designed to grab attention by relentlessly tearing others down. It's like a reality TV show, but with less drama and more political punching bags. The focus isn't on genuine conversation. It's all about the spectacle. But here's the real question. Is Piers Morgan going too far with his criticism? Or is he just voicing his truth? What's the real agenda behind all this? Is it all about spreading fear, or just a strategy to keep the base fired up? Should The View be cancelled entirely? Or does it just need a major overhaul to bring in real, unfiltered debate? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. More videos are on the way. Catch you in the next one.